American Comics. My Warhammer Simulator Chapter 121-130. Open black lens bracket. In the 5th week, the Tyrant-class cruiser, White Mouth, slowly sailed in the chaotic and disordered warp, like a lonely fish diving into the deep sea. Google search reading close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You opened your dark eyes and revealed the sharp teeth in your mouth. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You gradually got up from the water tank full of potions. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your serious injuries have not fully recovered. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You think this seems to be related to the way you descended. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This powerful body of Astartes does not belong to you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. It belongs to this space shark named Patrick. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You got more news about the war from Captain Sean. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although the home fleet suffered a lot of losses, the Carcharodon regiment still survived tenaciously. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The flagship of the Ash Claws, the battleship, Vicious Claws, personally led the entire fleet to support the space sharks. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You also accidentally learned the truth about the Ash Claws' willingness to support. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Librarian T. Kahalanji sent a hidden astropathic message without the knowledge of the whole chapter. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As long as the Ash Claws are willing to provide fleet support, the Scarlet Scar is willing to return the hunger and thirst. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Obviously, you have completely underestimated the obsession of the Ash Claws chapter master Nahart with the lightning power claws. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, just when you asked Captain Sean whether chapter master Tiberius would really return the weapons, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You received a silent gaze from Captain Sean's dark eyes. Open black lens bracket. The librarian has no right to make this decision. Patrick, if it were you, would you be willing to return it? Captain Sean, expressionless, stared at you and asked slowly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You hesitated and shook your head slightly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You think the Scarlet Scar would rather fight a life and death duel with the chapter master of the Ash Claws than return the weapons easily. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This is the unwritten philosophy and custom of the Carcharodon. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. What you rob belongs to you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. In the 6th week, the Tyrant-class cruiser, White Mouth, once again rushed out of the subspace, and the shock of the Geller force field was slowly recovering. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But the next second, a deafening alarm sounded throughout the ship. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You drove the Terminator power armor that had barely completed the repair work to the bridge deck. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You met the company commander Siobhan, who was commanding the entire company to welcome the battle. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You got bad news from the other party. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Tyrant-class cruiser, White Mouth, did not arrive at the correct starfield according to the guidance of the astropath. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The chaotic and disordered subspace sent you to the vicinity of a retreating hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And according to the data analysis obtained by the ship's instrument scan, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. That was the Kraken hive fleet that had just been driven away from the border of the Empire by the Space Shark's home fleet. Close black lens bracket. In the cold cosmic void, living narwhal warships slowly opened their huge nacelles. Open black lens bracket. One by one, Tyrande sirens and Tyrande drone patrol ships rushed into the cosmic void and launched a frenzied attack on the White Mouth. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Countless biological plasma cannons and acid cannons bombarded the open void shield of the Tyrant-class cruiser, setting off waves of terrifying colorful waves. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With the opening of more hangars in the narwhal warships, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. One by one, the battle B-ships cooperated with the Tyrande drone frigates to wrap up the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Guarding the defenseless narwhal warships. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The white-mouthed Tyrant-class cruiser had already launched a counterattack. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The weapon array on the side emitted a terrifying light. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The plasma weapon array and the laser weapon array fired alternately, bombarding the Tyrande sirens and the drone patrol ships that tried to board. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, the weak firepower of just one Tyrant-class cruiser is simply a drop in the bucket for the Zerg Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Even though the other side has just suffered a lot of losses, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But the situation of the White Maw has instantly become precarious. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain Sean quickly commanded the entire company to prepare for a boarding operation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You stared expressionlessly at the tall figures of many battle brothers. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A flash of determination flashed across your dark eyes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain, what is the most powerful weapon on the cruiser? You stared at Captain Sean and asked solemnly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain Sean picked up a bolter loaded with ammunition and hung it on the waist of the Terminator power armor. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Padrick, don't hesitate, the future of the third company depends on this battle. Win and live, lose and die, it's that simple. Captain Sean picked up the chainsaw axe and said expressionlessly with a pair of dark eyes staring. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain, do you believe me? You took a deep breath and blinked your dark eyes. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are my battle brother, and a member of the third company and the entire regiment. What do you want to do? Captain Sean seemed to have sensed your thoughts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain, I ask again, are there any weapons and equipment on the cruiser that can threaten the Hive fleet? If not, then we can only fight to the end. You subconsciously took a step closer to Captain Sean. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. There are 3 relic-level cyclone torpedoes in the armory, and the cruiser itself also has an ancient Nova cannon. However, in order to maintain the existence of the Void Shield, the Nova cannon can only be fired once. Captain Sean's dark eyes stared at you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Report to the captain. I want to take the cyclone torpedoes for a single-man boarding to fight for the opportunity for the White Maw to re-enter the warp. You blinked your dark eyes and made a decision without hesitation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain Sean immediately rejected your proposal. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You had to bring out words such as the Emperor's blessing and the Void Father's blessing to prove your loyalty and determination. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain, if the time is right, I will return from the void. You and I will meet again. You performed the regiment salute to the other party. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain Sean stared at you expressionlessly and fell into silence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He finally agreed to your request. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Captain Sean ordered the white-haired technical sergeant to extract 3 cyclone torpedoes from the armory. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You first set 2 of the torpedoes to use a triggered explosion. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The other one was remotely controlled by Captain Sean. close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket accompanied by the violent vibration of the void shield and the huge roar of the ship's metal shell being bombarded. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You refused any request from your battle brothers to board the ship. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You wanted to drive a fist assault boat alone to jump into the battle. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, all the engines of the 13 remaining fist assault boats emitted a fierce light. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A group of drivers from the Mortal Auxiliary Army came to you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They voluntarily accepted this suicide mission that was destined to go without return. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Sir, I heard that you once killed a Void Kraken alone. It would be our greatest honor to fight side by side with you. The bright smiles of the Mortal Auxiliary Army completely blocked your shallow words. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With a solemn expression, you performed the regiment's military salute to the Silent Three companies. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You slowly raised your armored arm and performed a celestial army salute to the Mortal Auxiliary troops. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At the same time, at the bow of the Tyrant-class cruiser, White Mouth, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The terrifyingly powerful Nova cannon has been preheated and is ready to go. Close black lens bracket. In the cold void of the universe, the sides of the Tyrant-class cruiser, White Mouth, lit up one after another. Open black lens bracket. The plasma weapon array that had completed charging once again erupted with brilliant light. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Countless drone patrol ships that failed to dodge were burned to ashes, and even a large number of Tyrant sirens were affected. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The colorful void shield continued to shake exaggeratedly, and the huge metal hull turned the direction it faced. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At the same time, in the huge gun barrel inside the bow. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A plasma entity projectile with a diameter of 50 meters had already completed the initial acceleration and quickly moved towards the speed of light. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The next second, the void shield that enveloped the entire cruiser seemed to dim a little. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This caused the dense biological plasma cannons to penetrate the weakened protective barrier and bombard the metal hull. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At this moment, a magnificent super large beam suddenly erupted from the bow gun barrel. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The plasma projectile instantly passed through the cold void and arrived at the center of the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Tyrande drone frigates and battle B-ships scattered throughout the void instantly shrank and accelerated around the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Narwhal ships also slowly drove their huge bodies and tried to adjust their directions. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They seemed to be trying to dodge and block the unstoppable Nova cannon. Close black lens bracket. Unfortunately, the plasma projectiles that arrived at the designated location exploded. Open black lens bracket. In an instant, the destructive tide that stretched for thousands of kilometers of the void was like an exploding star, easily annihilating nearly 1/3 of the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At the same time, the void shield was still recovering, and the White Giant Mouth cruiser, whose subspace engine was gradually warming up, opened the entrance to the hangar. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. 13 fist assault boats quickly rushed into the cosmic void and rushed towards the Hive fleet, which had not yet recovered its command status. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, the Hive fleet, which had just suffered a destructive bombardment, seemed to be indifferent to the loss of many *** ships. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Soon after, More Tyrande Siren and drone frigates were released from the belly of the Narwhal Zerg ship. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This was not good news for the 13 Fist assault boats that were gradually approaching the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Sure enough, at the moment when 5 Fist assault boats came into contact with the drone frigates, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. They were blasted into ashes by the surging bioplasma cannon after firing only one molten beam. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You had no time to commemorate the heroic sacrifice of the mortal auxiliary army. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Fist assault boat you were driving was immediately forcibly wrapped in the center by the other 7 Fist assault boats. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After your flight formation broke through the collision of the Tyrande Siren and the baptism of the bioplasma cannon. Close black lens bracket. There were only 2 Fist assault boats still surrounding you. Open black lens bracket. You gradually clenched your armored palms. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You hold the detonator of the whirlwind torpedo. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You stare into the void ahead, and the Tyranid weapons that almost occupy the entire field of vision rush towards you fiercely. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At this moment, a Fist assault boat driven by a mortal quickly rushes forward. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Accompanied by a dazzling explosion, the opponent actually used the self-destruct engine as a price to forcibly tear a gap in the channel for you. Close black lens bracket. You and another Fist assault boat successfully passed through the Hive defense line that was too late to fill. Open black lens bracket. Countless drone patrol ships suddenly appeared from under a narwhal worm ship. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Just when you were about to detonate the whirlwind torpedo in advance. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Another Fist assault boat shook its bulky hull and rear wings slightly, as if to salute and bid farewell to you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Then, its engine screamed and quickly surpassed your position. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Accompanied by another burst of explosion, a short channel was cleared. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You subconsciously took a deep breath, revealing your shark-like white teeth. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You suddenly let out a roar that resounded through the cockpit. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You pushed the engine control lever to the extreme and turned on the switch of the hot melt beam. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Fist assault boat you drove was like a lonely beast, smashing several drone patrol ships and forcibly inserting into the body of a narwhal ship in the Hive fleet. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You gently pressed the detonation button. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The brilliant light from behind suddenly bloomed. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You seem to have no time to feel the pain. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your Terminator power armor and powerful *** were instantly vaporized. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You died. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This simulation ended, taking 42 days. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This simulation obtained the option to keep. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. 1. Ancient Cyclone Torpedo. 1. Close black lens bracket. Note: this seems to be a precious weapon snatched from a technological relic by a space shark. This battle brother wanted to use it countless times, but was blocked by the gradually reversed battle situation. Note: hello, alien heretics, the extermination order has arrived. Open black lens bracket. 2. Raven Chain Axe without repair, fine casting. Close black lens bracket. Note: a melee weapon used by an Astartes brother of the Carcharodon warband named Spangy, who died in a brutal battle against unknown aliens in the Ghoul star domain. Note: for the Father of the Void, for Lord Padrick, Spongy broke the silence and roared before he died. Open black lens bracket. 3. Ancient Saturn Terminator Power Armor Ordinary Close Black Lens Bracket. Note: the heavy shoulder armor is equipped with a shield generator, which is enough to resist the bombardment of powerful firepower. The round helmet is also equipped with threat detectors and motion sensors, as well as several probes and auspicious instruments, which can always observe the wearer's vital signs. Note: its full name should be Tactical Dreadnought Armor, which is a power armor optimized for close-range melee, so any melee weapon is its golden partner. Note: its overall structure is ancient and complex, and many internal components lack careful repair and maintenance. It can continue to fight, but it won't last long. Open black lens bracket. This simulation time has exceeded 24 hours, and the simulator loss is not exempted. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Cooling time: 420 hours. 10:1. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Current available cooling time: 1809 hours. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Do you want to consume the cooling time? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The cooling time is not consumed, and the simulator enters natural cooling. Cooling can be exempted at any time. Close black lens bracket. The simulation ends again. Rorschach, who had just browsed the option reward, suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at the blue wolf boy. He jumped off the metal bed. His bare feet stood on the cold metal floor. I think about it every day and look forward to it every night. My power armor is finally here. At this moment, Rorschach couldn't help but show his fangs and smiled. It's decided to be you. Saturn Terminator. 25 minutes later. Google search reading. Inside the brightly lit hall of the base, a Terminator power armor with a height of nearly 2.8 meters and a weight of 1 ton was placed in front of Rorschach. Just behind him, Iron Man David, with a slightly hunched metal spine, was lifting his metal head. The blue light in his eye sockets kept scanning the huge armor in front of him. Not long after, Iron Man David completed the scan. It shook its metal head and said to Rorschach, who was hugging his arms, "My lord, I have basically understood the internal structure of this power armor." Hearing the words of Iron Man David, Rorschach, who narrowed his blue wolf eyes, pondered for a moment and asked, "David, can you make structural modifications? Without the assistance of the black shell, I basically can't drive this big thing." "My lord, the Terminator power armor is divided into an outer layer of ceramic steel armor, an inner adamantium skeleton, and electronic muscle bundles all over the body. There are also various complex closed life support systems and detection systems." Iron Man David took a step, walked to the front of the Terminator power armor. It slightly raised its metal head. Staring at the metal lump that was much taller than it continued, "I can 100% guarantee that the ceramic steel armor and the skeleton can be reassembled after disassembly. If the electronic muscle bundle is only disassembled and installed, I can also do it. But I know nothing about other complex systems, especially the energy source in the power backpack. This Terminator in front of me is a technological black box I just reproduced and restored many places, but what is needed to truly understand the technical logic is a complete drawing and idea." Iron Man David turned around and spread his metal palm to Rorschach. "Please forgive me, my lord. After all, I am just a construction worker, not a real mechanical priest. You need a super helper who specializes in this. If you still have the energy to create miracles, I wonder if you can turn a living person into a living person." Iron Man David raised his metal head. Its two metal palms were slightly clasped together, and the mechanical voice seemed full of expectations. Rorschach grinned expressionlessly, revealing his hidden fangs. He said with a stiff expression, "Maybe there will be a chance in the future. But I'm afraid it's not possible now. David, is there really no way?" "Ah, Lord, I have an idea." Iron David suddenly turned around and looked back at the Terminator. "If you want to turn it into combat power immediately, I can use ordinary metals on Terra to make a copycat Terminator power armor for you. A metal skeleton suitable for your body size and an armor shell made of ordinary metal. With the help of the Terminator's own electronic muscle bundle, I will learn some scientific knowledge such as force feedback, add a new energy source or continue to use a power backpack. But in this way, there may be a lack of support from many systems, and your combat ability may not increase much, and your survivability may be greatly reduced. Silent Rorschach listened to the simple idea of Iron David. A gleam of light flashed in his blue wolf pupils. David, why don't we just do it? It's a waste to leave this thing here as a decoration. My lord, first of all, you need to understand that this project still has a high chance of failure. I still need to build Professor Connor's biological laboratory. Although the underground passages have been opened, some corners have not yet installed access control facilities. Iron Man David nodded without hesitation. Then, he began to list the current task progress one by one to Rorschach. Rorschach raised his sharp fingertips and covered his forehead. He sighed and said, I understand, David, I understand. The existing hunter armor is enough to deal with any threat. There is no need to work overtime to rush time. You can just follow your plan. Thank you for your understanding. Iron Man David shook his metal head and turned to walk into the base passage. Its footsteps seemed to be much lighter. Rorschach, with a helpless expression, reluctantly stepped forward and touched the cold and heavy ceramic steel shell of the Terminator. He turned around and walked to the metal round table and sat next to it. Thanks to the plan of the Iron Man David to copy the power armor. Rorschach suddenly remembered something. He searched for a while and found a pen and paper and spread it out in front of him. Rorschach first wrote down a name, Tony Stark. Then, he wrote down Morocco, whiplash, palladium poisoning, isotope new energy and many other words. The best strategy is to make friends and exchange the Terminator that is not needed temporarily for technical support from the other party. But I am afraid that I can hardly tolerate Stark's temper and personality, and it is easy to attract the attention of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra in advance. However, since I intend to destroy Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., I am not afraid of exposing some things. The middle strategy is to let Iron Man David remind the other party of the crisis of palladium poisoning and inform the other party of his father's inheritance in advance. And in return for saving his life, try to get the other party to give him new energy? This is probably a bit whimsical, right? The worst strategy. Rob him? Especially Ivan Vanko's first-generation energy is the easiest to get. If the timing is right, Stark's isotope new energy can also be taken. Hey, why do I always feel that the last option is the best way to suit my wishes? Luo Shah slowly narrowed his green wolf eyes. The pen in his hand drew a big circle around the word, Haze. At this moment, an exclamation from the equipment room suddenly interrupted Rorschach's thoughts. He stood up quickly with an expressionless expression. The tall body ran towards the direction of the sound. Jessica, what are you making a fuss about? What's going on? However, Rorschach, who was frowning slightly, rushed into the equipment room. The words he hadn't finished yet were swallowed back into his stomach. At this moment, two Jessicas with almost identical height, body shape and even surprised expressions stood in front of the weapons rack. In her hand she also held a handful of fine powder that was constantly reflecting colorful luster. Shocked, Rorschach instantly made a rational judgment. Placed in that position is the trophy crystal ball from the Minotaur Agar. Jessica, do you feel that your spiritual will is being invaded? Or are there any other changes in the situation that you think are inappropriate? The expressionless Rorschach lowered his thick arms. The two palms with sharp fingertips were slightly open. It seems as if an attack will be launched at the next moment. Boss, I feel fine. I don't feel any discomfort. I swear this is the truth. But Rorschach seemed to be showing signs of attacking. The frightened Jessica quickly threw the colorful powder in her palm back to the weapon rack. The next second, two almost identical Jessicas appeared. One of the figures slowly disappeared into the air. Call. However, Rorschach took a deep breath and blinked his cyan wolf eyes. He subconsciously bared his fangs and whispered softly. What I hate the most is these wacky gadgets from mages, they don't even have basic fucking instructions. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Wearing protective goggles, Connors carefully picked up a crystal powder the size of a needle tip with metal tweezers. Google search reading. Under the illumination of bright lights, The fine powder seems to be constantly reflecting the colorful light. He squinted his eyes and looked at it again and again for a long time. Then he faced Rorschach, who was standing aside, and Jessica, who opened her eyes wide, said firmly, "Although I am not an expert in materials science, I dare to use my knowledge reserve to guarantee that this is definitely not a substance that can be created with today's technological methods, especially since it has the ability to create illusions." "Rorschach, you said this was a trophy obtained from a monster with a bull's head and body? I will take the time to look up similar myths and ancient legends to see if I can find any clues in them."
"Then I'll trouble you, teacher." Rorschach, who was crossing his arms, blinked.
He lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said softly, "At least this incident didn't cause any bigger trouble, although I don't know what happened to this thing. It also gave me a warning.
We need to gradually formulate rules and regulations. In the future, you must not take trophies you don't know about on the battlefield without authorization. Even if you take them, you need to go through careful and strict testing measures."
"Understood, boss." The words just fell. Smiling Connors was about to speak.
Jessica, who was eager to try, raised her arms first.
"If you're energetic, give me extra training." The expressionless Rorschach glared at Jessica.
Then, he turned to Connors and asked, "By the way, teacher, do you know more scientists? I find that the similar knowledge reserves and scientific research background in our team are too weak. As long as the other party is not a hopeless crazy person, whether it is money or equipment, I can provide sponsorship." And heard Rorschach's inquiry. A trace of embarrassment seemed to flash across Connor's face. He gently lowered the metal tweezers. He raised one arm and gathered the increasingly sparse greasy blonde hair above his head.
"Rorschach, although the teacher doesn't want to disappoint you, I am always just a biology teacher in high school. My classmates at that time have either changed careers, or their character and skills are not as good as mine."
The expressionless Rorschach nodded slightly. Then, he announced to everyone that the meeting was over.
Connors continued to direct Iron Man David to build the laboratory. Jessica was rushed to physical training. Rorschach blinked his cyan wolf eyes and sat next to the metal round table.
After hesitating for a moment, he reached out and picked up a handful of crystal powder.
Rorschach directly opened the simulator page and pointed at the crystal powder in his hand.
He plans to test whether the simulator can detect the origin of these substances.
Open black lens bracket unknown strange object. Ashes of ancient remains close black lens bracket. Note: a precious magic weapon polished and cast from the ancient remains of unknown creatures. It has been sacrificed and baptized by countless human flesh and blood for thousands of years.
Its hard body was annihilated into powder by an unbearable force, but its harmless passive abilities still remained.
Note: a certain amount of powder can allow the holder to create an illusion that is just like the real thing, but has no other use.
Note: please look for other harmful substances. Ashes are worthless to the simulator.
Huh? Luo Sha subconsciously opened his green wolf eyes.
He originally just wanted to give it a try. There is no idea of success.
But the simulator actually detected some information. Maybe in the future, the simulator can also be used as a verification instrument? Rorschach blinked. He closed the emulator page. He reached out and grabbed more crystal powder. Along with the thoughts spinning in my mind, in an instant, the gray hair on Rorschach's head and the sharp fingertips and thick-jointed hands gradually returned to their normal state. Even the pair of cyan wolf eyes completely changed into their original color. And a smiling Rorschach stared at the blurred reflection on the metal tabletop. He groped again for the thick palm that had not really changed, but only deceived his vision. He was silent for a moment and suddenly murmured to himself, "Aha! I have occasionally worried that after undergoing more Astartes transformations, I might be completely insulated from human society, but now I have no worries." Then, Rorschach, who narrowed his eyes, threw down the crystal powder. The body shape once again returned to that of a gray-haired wolf with pupil eyes. Dash 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 dash.
The Terminator power armor placed in the base hull is being torn into pieces by Iron Man David. A layer of thick ceramic armor was dismantled one by one.
The complex electronic muscle bundles and metal pipelines with unknown functions inside were exposed. And when it comes to this step, the movements on Iron Man David's metal palm slowed down a lot. It often takes a long time to think before disassembling an electronic muscle bundle. Such a cautious attitude. Iron Man David seems to be dismantling a time bomb rather than a piece of powered armor.
At this time, Rorschach was sitting next to the metal round table. He occasionally checked on the Iron Man who had been working all day.
Then, he drank a few sips of iced Tagus milk leisurely and continued to flip through the thick book in his hand. Rorschach was certainly not acting as a supervisor. He was trying to learn the language of *** country. Rorschach accidentally found a lot of books and texts such as Imperial Defense Manual from the salvaged debris.
He also wanted to understand the way to build an Imperial Guard in a more systematic way.
So, Rorschach had to regain his learning mentality. While comparing the text translated by Iron Man David, while trying to learn a new language, snap, at this moment, accompanied by a slight sound and flashing electric light. An electronic muscle bundle that Iron Man David had not yet completed disassembly was slightly deformed and seemed to have suffered considerable damage.
Rorschach subconsciously raised his head. He stared at the tall back of Iron Man David and whispered,
"David, I think you need to take a break. My lord, this is just a trivial miscalculation." Having said that, Iron Man David still put down the electronic muscle bundle in his metal palm.
He turned around and walked to the side of the metal round table, and said to Rorschach,
"My lord, it's really strange. The disassembly method and time are exactly the same as before, but there are still unexpected mistakes. I thought there was no machine soul in this Terminator, but now it seems that this is not the case. I do have an old way. Try burning incense and worshipping according to the Eastern ritual?" Rorschach frowned and put down the thick book. He rubbed his nose with two sharp fingertips.
"As for whether it works, only God knows." Hearing Rorschach's words, Iron Man David shook his metal head. The blue light in his eye sockets flickered slightly.
The mechanical voice seemed full of helplessness.
"My lord, I think we need the guidance of professionals, even if the other party is just a low-level servant in the Mechanicus, in the next period of time."
Iron Man David's Terminator disassembly plan encountered many crises. Rorschach had to temporarily stop Iron Man David's risky actions. It's not that he feels sorry for the Terminator power armor. Rorschach was afraid that Iron Man David would accidentally destroy the subatomic fusion reactor in the power backpack. Send the entire base and half of Manhattan Island to the west.
So Rorschach began a series of salvage operations.
He tried to salvage things related to the Adeptus Mechanicus. If you are lucky enough to get STC related to power armor,
then he only needs to put in the corresponding materials to create the power armor step by step.
Completely foolproof operation, saving worry, effort and iron.
However, Rorschach seems to have underestimated the lower limits of the simulator.
In other words, the items recovered through salvage can only be lifeless dead objects. Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Dead green skinned orc. 1. Close black lens bracket, please choose carefully. Annotation. Ancient remains from the Beast Wars. Dig a hole, bury some soil, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, next year the land will be full of greenskins. Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Dead Eldar Ranger. 1 body, close black lens bracket, please choose carefully.
Note: fresh remains from the Ark Eldar. Wow, a white bean sprout with red hair, white skin and long legs. Come on, brother, while it's hot.
Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Long dormant servo skull. 1, close black lens bracket.
Note: produced by tech priest Redditus himself, this is a servo skull made from his skull. It can talk, sing, and curse, but it has no brains.
Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Machete. 1, close black lens bracket, please choose carefully.
Label: Produced by Armageddon, a melee weapon weighing several hundred kilograms and with an exaggerated shape. Where is my big chop? Where's the machete you just threw on the ground?
Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Brand new servo robotic arm. 1. Close black lens bracket. Label. Produced by the forging world of Underworld No. 8. A universal tool loved by everyone in the Adeptus Mechanicus. Of course, it is also common to use it to tear up a handful of Astartes. Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Silu Jasang, half body, that has been drifting for hundreds of years. Close black lens bracket. Note. A low-level technical priest who unfortunately died, and now only the upper body remains are left. Burn it, it's all charred, and there's no use keeping it. Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Avenger Star Dart Ejector. 1. Close black lens bracket, please choose carefully. Note. Produced by the Eldar Foundry of the Webway, the standard weapon of the Eldar warriors. It is very powerful, but the duration is a bit short. Rorschach, who frowned slightly, glanced at a series of salvage harvests expressionlessly. He took all the corpses without hesitation. The items marked, "Careful Selection," were all thrown into the sorting column set as garbage. Rorschach sorted out the ammunition, supplies, food and fuel he had obtained. In the end, only 2 items that were still usable were screened out. A tech priest from the Adeptus Mechanicus, a servo skull made from the skull of Reditus and a brand new servo robot arm. 300 times of salvage, I got these 2 useful things. Luo Sha subconsciously narrowed his green wolf eyes, and the fangs in his mouth slightly poked out of his lips. His nose twitched. He actually scrolled the page and selected designated salvage again. This time, he directly chose the powered armor STC as the scope of the salvage. Moreover, Rorschach invested 500 hours of resource time in one go. It's not that he doesn't want to complete 1,000 hours. Rather, Rorschach believed that the chance of success in the second designated salvage would be greatly reduced. He just wanted to try his luck. Naturally, I will be happy if I succeed, but if I fail, it will just be a waste of hundreds of firearms. Open black lens bracket specified salvage countdown. 99 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Close black lens bracket. Rorschach glanced at the countdown for the designated salvage. Then, he directly extracted the servo robotic arm and servo skull. Boom! A heavy servo robot arm fell to the metal floor in the break room with a loud bang. Buzz buzz. Immediately afterwards, the servo skull that emerged instantly activated its anti-gravity engine and floated into the air. Rorschach squinted his eyes and looked at the gadgets in front of him. A metal plate with name and position engraved on it was nailed into the forehead of this white skull. The eye sockets with metal frames seemed to be equipped with mechanical equipment that can emit light. A pair of basic mechanical pliers protruding from the bottom of the skull slowly expanded and contracted a few times. It seems like some kind of self-test program is going on. At the same time, the lighting device installed on the side of the skull also flickered a few times. A few seconds later, a cold mechanical sound came from the speaker. The body is weak and the machine is eternal. The question and answer mode is on. The presence of Brother Astartes has been detected. Hello, I am Tech Priest Reditus, accompanied by the subtle sound of anti-gravity engines. The servo skull with blue light emitting from its eye sockets slowly came closer to Rorschach. Tell me about your function? Luo Sha opened his green wolf eyes wide and asked curiously. Lighting mode, simple surgery mode, equipment maintenance mode. If you want to enable reconnaissance mode, please install weapons. The servo skull answered in a mechanical voice. Equipment maintenance mode? Rorschach's eyes suddenly lit up. Can the power armor be repaired and modified? Hello, I am the technical priest Reditus. Hello, I am the technical priest Reditus. Toos. Just when Rorschach was about to ask in depth, the mechanical sound of the servo skull trembled slightly. It repeated the same sentence over and over again as if it was stuck. Then, the servo skull suspended in the air suddenly fell silent. Only the blue light flashing in the eye sockets and the subtle sound of the anti-gravity engine remained. Rorschach frowned again with a puzzled look. He muttered to himself. Is it broken? Is the quality of the Empire's products so bad? Rorschach slowly stood up. He leaned in front of the servo skull and looked at it for a long time. He did not find any visible problems. In the end, Rorschach could only leave the servo skull suspended in the air. Walked out of the lounge. He planned to let Iron Man David repair it and extract the data in the skull system. Perhaps there is technological knowledge hidden in it to soothe the machine soul and repair power armor. However, just after Rorschach left the lounge, a strand of black mist as thick as a hair slowly penetrated the metal wall. It seemed to detect the existence of the servo skull. It actually drilled into the servo skull suspended in the air without hesitation. Zzz, hello, I am the technical priest Reditus, accompanied by the flickering blue light in the eye sockets of the servo skull. The mechanical voice that just disappeared reappeared. Hello, I am the technical priest Reditus. Hello, where the hell is this? Ah, Emperor bless, God of all machines, I, Reditus, am alive again. Rorschach found the Iron Man David who was working on the project. Each piece of metal building material seemed to be cast with a magical spell. Iron Man David threw it and it landed in the right place. Then, one of its metal palms gently wiped the tiny gaps between the building materials. In a flash, the metal building materials were combined with each other to form a complete shape. Rorschach, with a smile on his face, greeted Connors who was squatting on the chair. The other party waved his hand without raising his head. He continued to study the many materials in the tablet. Rorschach didn't care about it. He walked up to the Iron Man David. Rorschach stared with a pair of blue wolf eyes, looking at the other party's almost dazzling movements. He couldn't help but admire. David, every time I see your construction technology, it is a wonderful performance. Iron Man David turned his metal head. The coordination between its palm and limbs never stopped. Thank you for your praise, Lord. Is there anything you can do for me? Rorschach grinned and showed his fangs, smiling. It's nothing big. You know my miracle, I just got a mechanical arm and a servo skull. I think the other party's system may store some scientific and technological knowledge of the Mechanicus, so. Before he finished speaking, Iron Man David, with blue light flashing in his eyes, turned back to the metalhead. It nodded slightly and said, Please wait a moment, Lord, the construction of this area is about to be completed. I'm not in a hurry, you go ahead. Rorschach, with his arms folded, stepped back a few meters to make room for the Iron Man. The next moment, the coordinated movements between the metal limbs of Iron Man David accelerated a bit. A large number of metal building materials surrounding it decreased rapidly. About 5 minutes later, when the last piece of building material was successfully integrated into the wall, the first space in the laboratory area was completed. Iron Man David stepped back a few steps. It hunched its metal spine slightly, and blue light kept ripples in its eye sockets. It seemed to be admiring its own masterpiece. Finally, it bowed slightly to Rorschach not far away. Thank you for your patience, Lord. Let's go, Rorschach nodded. Turned and walked out of the laboratory. The two did not disturb Connors, who was frowning. At this moment, the other party was scratching his sparse blonde hair, as if he was trapped in an unsolved problem. 3 minutes later, Rorschach and Iron Man David entered the base hall. Came to the door of the lounge. By the way, there seems to be some problems with the servo skull. The quality of the Empire's products. However, when Rorschach pushed open the metal door, the touch from his keen senses made him stop talking instantly. In an instant, Rorschach's blue wolf pupils suddenly shrank. His tall body jumped forward and avoided the sudden attack from inside the room. Buzz, accompanied by a dull sound of breaking through the air. A heavy servo-mechanical arm fell down with a bang and hit the metal floor heavily. Boom! The deafening sound of the collision echoed in the lounge. At the same time, Rorschach, with a stern face, had already twisted his tall body. He pulled out the plasma pistol he carried from his waist. His finger was on the trigger. Just as the electric light surged inside the muzzle and the hot plasma was about to come out of the barrel. Wait, the servo skull suspended in the air shook the mechanical clamp vigorously. Its mechanical voice seemed to be full of unconcealable shock and excitement. God of all machines. Unknown Primarch. I swear on the honor of the Mechanicus. This is a misunderstanding as big as Mars. Primarch, don't shoot, surrender, I surrender. However, at this time, two dark and reflective metal palms suddenly appeared under the skull. Iron Man David grabbed the servo skull suspended in the air. He easily imprisoned the flying human skull. No matter how the other party adjusted the ejection direction of the anti-gravity engine, he could not break free from the heavy shackles like iron hoops. Ah, Iron Man? God of all machines? Oh Messiah bless? There is an Iron Man here? Fucking Iron Man? Where is the Skitarii? Lord Primarch, go and call the Astartes to come. It seemed that the appearance of the Iron Man stimulated the other party. The servo skull, whose eye sockets kept flashing red, suddenly let out a fierce shout that was almost crazy. Shut up, until the expressionless Rorschach once again pointed the plasma pistol at the other party. The servo skull, whose emotions were almost out of control, finally calmed down completely. I ask, you answer. Dare to say a wrong word, and I will send you to see the Emperor immediately. Rorschach's blue wolf eyes stared at the servo skull without blinking. He spoke word by word. Name, if I remember correctly, Raditus? Age? 8 or 900 years, or 1,000 years. Position, Human Empire, Martian Mechanicus, a technical priest on the steel ball casting world, a foundry technician, a ruins exploration expert. Dear Primarch, I had many titles in the past. Oh, shut up, shut up. Why did it become a servo skull? Did it upload its memories without permission, or was it contaminated by chaos corruption? Rorschach stepped forward with narrowed eyes. The muzzle of the plasma pistol was almost against the forehead of the servo skull. My Lord Primarch, I really don't know. I only remember that I died on the way to explore the ruins. It seems that I was killed by the Necrons. When I woke up again, it was now. Please allow me to explain. I thought I was transformed by a traitor or an alien, so I tried to escape. I really didn't mean it. At this moment, the servo skull named Raditus. The red light in its eye sockets flashed desperately. Even the mechanical voice was full of doubts and grievances. However, Rorschach, who had a plan in mind, pulled the corner of his mouth slightly. He suddenly winked at the Iron Man David. The Iron Man David instantly understood. Its two metal palms slowly applied pressure. In an instant, the white skull of Raditus made a horrible creaking sound. It seemed that it would completely shatter in the next second. Ah, Lord Primarch, spare my life, I am really a loyalist. It is the Emperor. It must be the Emperor's blessing that allowed me to wake up and serve you. For the Emperor. For the God of all machines. At this moment, Raditus made a mechanical sound close to howling. Rorschach, with a stern face, gradually grinned, revealing sharp fangs. He narrowed his eyes and slowly lowered his plasma pistol. Iron Man David also immediately relaxed the metal palm that was exerting pressure. Let go of the servo skull. Rorschach, with a gentle expression, stared at the servo skull Raditus, which was rising and falling in the air. It seemed that he had just experienced a huge shock. He twitched his nose and said with a smile, "Look, wouldn't it be better to express your loyalty earlier? As for the misunderstanding that you attacked me, I won't bother with you for the sake of being the same Emperor's currency. Thank you, Master Primarch, for your iron heart that is as broad as a star and as deep as a black hole." The eyes of the servo skull Raditus inlaid with metal frames flashed red. The mechanical voice seemed to be full of gratitude for surviving a disaster. The next moment, Iron Man David stepped forward. It bowed slightly to Rorschach and said slowly, "My lord, it's just a servo skull. It's not worth your effort. Let me crack its system, which can be regarded as solving a hidden danger for you." A despicable and eloquent Iron Man. My Lord Primarch, don't listen to any slander of these alien heretics. I can guarantee that the technical priests of the Mechanicus cannot be replaced by anything. Moreover, my soul is engraved with the blueprints and ideas of countless powerful equipment. As long as you give me enough time, I can restore them one by one for you. facing the skull rising and falling, jumping back and forth. Reditus swore solemnly between words. Rorschach licked his fangs subconsciously. He whispered, "There is an old Terminator power armor parked outside the room. I need it to be completely disassembled. If you can prove your worth, I will think carefully about your future." "My Lord Primarch, I understand, I know everything." The anti-gravity engine of the servo skull Raditus made a low hum. The white skull suddenly turned around. He rushed out of the room without hesitation. Wait until the other's smooth back of the head disappeared. Rorschach and Iron Man David looked at each other with a smile. Snap! The palms of the two people quickly raised and collided heavily. "Happy cooperation, David. Praise Om Messiah, my lord, we are masters and servants. We have a tacit understanding." Soon after, Rorschach, Iron Man David, and Jessica, who had completed physical training, watched a strange ceremony that subverted cognition. A white skull repeatedly flew around the Terminator with the ceramic steel armor removed. Waves of prayers were constantly heard from the other party's sound device. Life is a vector, and the soul is the inducement of life. Perception is the ability to acquire the value of knowledge. Intelligence is the understanding of knowledge. Perception is the basis of intelligence. Understanding is the right way to understand, and understanding is the key to everything. Om Messiah knows everything and understands everything. At the same time, cans of lubricants went through the other party's blessing ceremony. It became the so-called holy oil and was slowly sprinkled on the power armor by the mechanical clamp. Then, Raditus, who had regained control of the servo-mechanical arm, began its series of performances. One by one, the electronic muscle bundles were disassembled intact. Automatic sensing system, optical imaging system, voice communication system, motion tracker, thread detector, auspicious instrument. The complete set of systems was separated completely. It was placed on a nearby metal rack by Raditus, until several hours later. The huge Terminator power armor was completely disassembled into large and small mechanical parts and presented in front of everyone. Maybe my talent is just that of a construction worker. The many rituals to appease the machine soul are beyond my logical thinking. Faced with such a shocking scene, the mechanical voice of Iron Man David seemed full of sighs. However, the servo skull Raditus, which had just completed a complex task, drove the anti-gravity engine to Rorschach. Its eyes flashed red, and it said almost flatteringly, "Dear Primarch, now you know my use, right? As for this rebellious speech, you'd better not listen. There is no machine soul in this Terminator. It is completely some aliens who are ignorant and can't operate it at all." Before the voice fell, Rorschach smiled slightly and said slowly, "First of all, I want to thank you for your work and dedication, Raditus." Sir, you don't want to shoot me. Haha. I just want to say that you are welcome to join my team. At the same time, welcome to a new universe. A universe without the threat of the subspace. Servo skull Raditus took half an hour. Completely accepted the important information that it was in an unknown and alien world. However, just when Rorschach thought the other party would feel depressed, the servo skull, which was in a state of surprise, kept laughing wildly. It began flying back and forth around the base hall. The harsh mechanical voice kept talking about artificial intelligence and many things Rorschach had never heard before. But it is obvious that they are all forbidden technological creations in the Adeptus Mechanicus. So Rorschach had to take out his plasma pistol again. He made a three-part deal with servo skull Raditus. Any forbidden technology that could, perhaps, endanger humanity and Terra was not allowed to be studied in the slightest. Otherwise, die. Any forbidden technology that endangers the base and team members needs to be reported in advance. Research can only be conducted with the consent of at least 3 people. Otherwise, still die. In return, the generous Rorschach approved the other party's plan to research artificial intelligence. Anyway, there is no shortage of similar things on the Earth today. Moreover, as long as the other party is willing to assist Iron Man David in creating a copycat version of the Terminator power armor, Rorschach may, at his discretion, allow Raditus to research a forbidden technology of little harm. So, after a brief thought, Raditus, in the name of the god of all machines and the emperor, Rorschach was assured that his actions would be restrained. Rorschach was extremely happy to have a technical priest join him. But soon, Rorschach felt a headache. Servo Skull Reditus and Iron Man David don't get along very well.
Reditus constantly ridiculed Iron Man David's original idea for power armor.
I don't think the other party understands the meaning of this kind of mechanical creation that has allowed the Astartes monks to traverse the galaxy for thousands of years. Iron Man David didn't show any mercy. It will also complain about the technological shortcomings of the Empire and the fanatical beliefs of the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Every time, Reditus would jump up and down angrily, shouting that he wanted to fight Iron Man in a one-on-one duel.
Finally, Rorschach found a way to temporarily stop the quarrel between the two.
That's getting Servo Skull Reditus online. It requires learning new words, new technology. At the same time, we are also looking for suitable solutions for the cottage plan.
Soon, Reditus was addicted to the online world. It has some social accounts and has even gradually established a professional persona as a technology geek.
Quickly understand and absorb the scientific and technological knowledge on the Earth. Rorschach was finally able to enjoy a quiet life for a while.
Drink animal milk and read books. Occasionally I go home to chat with my aunt. However, just when the laid-back Rorschach seemed to have adapted to such simple days.
Iron Man David, who had just completed the laboratory construction task, found him again.
Luo Sha narrowed his green wolf eyes. He stared at Iron Man David and asked helplessly.
David, what stupid thing did Raditus do again? Did it send selfies to others again?
Well, although I don't have a good relationship with that skull, I still have to defend him. Faced with an internet bully who can anger anyone, Reditus obviously didn't understand the hidden meaning in human language. Words and basic rules of the online world. Iron Man David shook his metal head. Blue light flashed in its eye sockets. The mechanical voice seemed to be full of ridicule. Rorschach dropped the heavy books. He sighed, looked at Iron Man David and said, "Since it's not Reditus's problem, then, what happened?"
My lord, after the board of directors of Roxxon Industries was destroyed, the capital conglomerates on Terra wanted to get a piece of the pie. It was at that time that I found a human lawyer through the internet. Iron Man David bowed slightly. Reported the situation to Rorschach.
A young man who was impoverished but still insisted on justice, Fudge Nelson. I hired him with far more than the market price, and funded him to gradually establish a law firm, and gathered a large number of people who can be called the litigious legal gangster. Their role is very simple, which is to provide you with social convenience before our Lord completely takes control of this country and even the earth. Well, David, you have a good plan, and I have no problem with that.
Rorschach twisted his neck slightly. Several sharp fingertips subconsciously touched together.
The friction made a subtle sound of gold and iron. At this time, Iron Man David shook his metal head. The blue light in its eye sockets flashed a few times and continued. Money and law repeatedly pave the way, and everything goes smoothly in human society. You already own 1/3 of Roxxon Industries' domestic industries, and you are also the boss behind the Walt Entertainment Company. Through the acquired industries, I dug out the location of one of Roxxon Industries' most important laboratories from internal data, which contains a large number of prepared No. 5 compounds and production equipment. I originally wanted to obtain everything I needed through legal means, but some people were not ethical and not only assassinated the founder doctor who controlled the formula of the compound, but even threatened and intimidated your lawyers.
In that case, I was wondering if you need to go out for some activities recently. Iron Man David bowed again and said slowly. Rorschach narrowed his wolf eyes.
He grinned subconsciously. His fangs flashed with cold light. Shield? Or Hydra? Rorschach asked softly. The speed of the sharp fingertips rubbing gradually increased. Both sides have people. Some hooligans bribed by Hydra rushed into the law firm and threatened Fudge to give up the acquisition of the remaining assets of Roxxon Industries. Mrs. Gao's men have helped me deal with those little guys who are not even gang members. SHIELD, which belongs to the official forces, wanted to obtain the formula of the compound and protect the founder, but was assassinated by the hidden Hydra. This made my plan to bribe the other party completely bankrupt.
Not long ago, I just intercepted the communication lines leaked by both parties. Their teams are about to go to that laboratory. The target is obviously your property. The blue light in the eyes of Iron Man David projected a video. It seemed to be a surveillance video of a car explosion. Rorschach observed it carefully, accidentally saw a mechanical arm with a silver light flashing from the corner of the video. A long-haired man with a black mask on his face. Ah, Winter Soldier. Rorschach exhaled with narrowed eyes. He muttered to himself, "This is one of Hydra's assassins. Judging from his body shape and facial features, he is 100% similar to Bucky Barnes, a war hero who died in World War II. This time, the Hydra team seems to be led by him." Iron David projected a series of photos and video materials in succession.
A Hydra assassin, a pathetic tool. If the opportunity is right, I will try to capture him alive. The road to Hydra's destruction will start with him. Rorschach slowly stood up. He stared at Iron David and said calmly, "David, go prepare Valkyrie. A hunting activity to increase appetite. Begins, New Mexico." Under the scorching sun, a row of black convoys with billowing smoke and dust are crossing the desolate Gobi Desert. The rapidly rolling rubber tires crushed the old sand that had been hardened for countless years. They also scared away the hidden desert iguanas. Not long after, the huge convoy with roaring engines arrived at the designated location. It was a rolling terrain. Huge sand dunes shaped like the curves of a beautiful woman. Swish! As the rubber tires braked urgently, waves of sand and dust were raised. A large number of heavy bulletproof car doors opened quickly. One by one, human warriors wearing black combat uniforms and black masks on their faces walked out of the car with a suitable temperature. They stepped into the rolling heatwave without hesitation. These sturdy human warriors were fully armed. Almost everyone was holding a powerful automatic rifle in his hand. The top bulletproof vests were filled with ammunition enough to start a small war. Even around their waists were hung high explosive grenades with dark reflections. Some of them looked like elite human warriors. They also carried heavier individual rocket launchers on their backs. When all the warriors in the convoy had assembled, a long-haired man with a mottled red star branded on his metal left arm quickly jumped out of the black vehicle. His heavy combat boots stomped heavily into the depths of a dry and soft yellow sand. At the same time, a human warrior standing nearby quickly stepped forward. He handed a weapon to the silent opponent. The long-haired man took the gun casually. He pulled the bolt skillfully and checked it. A low and hoarse voice slowly echoed around. Each team checks the communication. Team 1 goes in ahead of time to clear any possible witnesses, Team 2 stays behind the convoy and is responsible for vigilance, and Teams 3 and 4 follow me to conduct assault operations. According to intelligence, our enemies will be here soon, and this battle needs to be resolved quickly. Long live Hydra! Long live Hydra! The long-haired man had just finished speaking. The originally silent crowd immediately shouted in unison, even though the black masks covered their facial expressions. But the enthusiasm in everyone's eyes could not be concealed at all. It seemed that he was stimulated by the slogan. The long-haired man's eye sockets, which were painted with black powder, suddenly twitched violently a few times. A pair of bloodshot eyes narrowed slightly. The teeth hidden under the black mask clenched tightly, as if he was enduring some unknown pain. HMPH. He subconsciously raised the flesh and blood palm wearing a combat glove. The palm pressed hard on the temple. At this moment, another human warrior standing nearby glanced around. Then, he carefully approached the long-haired man. He whispered to him, "Mr. Winter Soldier, are you okay?" "Ah, are you Bob? I'm fine. Everyone continue to perform the mission?" Team 1. The long-haired man codenamed Winter Soldier shook his dizzy head desperately. He took a deep breath of hot air. The metal arm holding the gun suddenly raised and swung down. Then, the Hydra warriors in a team of 10 responded quickly. They ran quickly with guns in hand. They climbed over the huge sand dunes nearby. A few minutes later, in the huge shadow behind the sand dunes, 3 buildings hidden on the edge of the desert appeared. These Hydra warriors rushed down the sand dunes with agility and quickly entered the interior of a building. Until the back of the last Hydra warrior disappeared in front of the building. The Winter Soldier, who led the entire team, lay expressionlessly on the hot sand on the top of the dune. He began to count the time silently from the bottom of his heart. However, 5 minutes later, not only was there silence in the communication channel, even the team members who went out to deliver the message did not show any trace. The buildings standing in the shadows were silent. It was like a mirage that occasionally appeared in the depths of the desert. "Oh, my little brother is almost fried. What are those bastards in Team 1 doing?" At this moment, Bob, who was lying near the Winter Soldier, complained subconsciously. The Winter Soldier, who was always strict in combat operations, did not stop the other party's thoughts. His brows were furrowed, and a trace of uneasiness and doubt flashed in his bloodshot eyes. About a minute later, the Winter Soldier, who seemed to have noticed something, took a deep breath. He suddenly climbed up from the hot sand. Click. The Winter Soldier, who was kneeling on one knee, raised his gun with one hand. He loaded the gun neatly. The mechanical arm with mottled red stars gleamed in the hot sun. Something is wrong. Team 2 abandons the vehicle and joins the assault. "Everyone, follow me," before he finished speaking. The Winter Soldier with long flowing hair jumped down the dune first. His heavy body slid to the bottom without hesitation, and he stood up and ran towards the entrance of the building. The nearby Hydra warriors also stood up. They strode into the sliding yellow sand and fell down. Dash 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 dash. The air temperature in the shadow of the dunes seems to have dropped a lot. The Winter Soldier's back was pressed against the wall of a building. The unobstructed entrance was right next to him, according to information and data display. The mission target they need to obtain is hidden in an underground laboratory under the heavy yellow sand. The only entrance is inside the building in front of you. The other surrounding buildings were nothing more than disguises and temporary warehouses for storing supplies. The frowning Winter Soldier kept blinking his eyes. He couldn't hear any movement from inside the building. There were only the footsteps of the Hydra warriors behind him and the faint sound of rolling gravel nearby. Other than that, there was only deathly silence. Buzz. The increasingly uneasy Winter Soldier subconsciously waved his mechanical arm. There was a low hum of mechanical rotation. Call. Under the increased mental pressure, the Winter Soldier's breathing suddenly became rapid. He shook his head again. He tried to get rid of the broken memories that suddenly flooded his mind and the swelling and pain in his brain. It seems to be to suppress anxious emotions. The always cautious Winter Soldier chose to break in forcefully. He dodged suddenly and entered the dimly lit building alone. He rushed towards the entrance of the underground laboratory without looking back. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a heavy step that was no longer concealed resounded all around. A tall figure wearing strange armor suddenly appeared in front of the Hydra team that was filing in. Enemies encountered. Fire. Dozens of Hydra warriors who broke into the building in batches raised their guns instantly. Countless bullets quickly spewed out of the gun barrel. It completely enveloped that terrifying tall figure. Then, the Hydra warriors who had pulled the trigger to the end all opened their eyes. They all fell into shock. I even forgot to change the magazine of the firearm in my hand. Ding ding ding. I saw that every rapidly rotating bullet was blocked by an invisible barrier. The air is densely filled, and that terrifying tall figure was not harmed at all. Even more frightening, accompanied by the crisp sound of countless bullets hitting the ground. The tall figure who stopped in his tracks suddenly raised a huge glove covered in red armor. Boom boom boom. The next second, the deafening sound of bolters once again echoed through the desert building. Suddenly, uncontrollable howls and broken limbs flew everywhere. The exploding flesh and broken stones of the wall continued to tear apart the fragile bodies around him. In the blink of an eye, dozens of Hydra warriors were turned into pieces of broken flesh everywhere under the terrifying power of the explosive bombs.
Within a radius of 20 meters, blood flowed like a river.
Ding ding ding. The next moment, bullets like raindrops slammed into the protective force field of Hunterlord's armor. But it was easily blocked, as if he knew that bullets were of little use.
Several high-explosive grenades rushed out of the shadows and collided with the wall.
It jumped towards the feet of the terrifying figure with great precision.
Boom boom boom. A burst of violent explosion flames instantly enveloped the tall figure who had no intention of dodging. However, the Winter soldiers hiding behind the wall were too late to launch more attacks.
Dong dong dong, accompanied by a huge roar as the ground shattered.
The terrifying figure like a wild bull suddenly passed through the explosion flames that had not dissipated.
Launched a fierce charge without any scruples, boom. After a huge roar. One side along the charge path was 1 foot thick, and the wall of the concrete structure suddenly shattered. Just when the dust was flying and the gravel was flying.
A huge red glove slammed down on the Winter soldier who was squatting behind the wall and had no time to avoid it.
Ah! In times of life and death crisis. The Winter soldier suddenly opened his blood-red eyes and roared at the top of his lungs. He subconsciously swung his mechanical arm, collided with that huge red glove.
He wanted to block this extremely terrifying attack from the unknown enemy. Squeak. However, the terrifying sound of the mechanical arm twisting and breaking.
The Winter soldier's beating heart suddenly tightened. A large amount of blood mist instantly bloomed between his mouth and nose.
The whole person actually flew backwards. It hit the ground full of gravel.
The next moment, the Winter soldier, who was staring at the ceiling, let out a sigh of relief. The tearing pain throughout his body seemed to completely relax him. Countless broken memories seemed to flash before his eyes. One of the familiar figures with a gentle smile seemed to touch the soft heart that was still beating.
His lips quivered slightly. Subconsciously, he made a vague murmur. Steve. Subsequently, the severely injured Winter soldier continued to vomit more blood.
Even the vision in front of him became hazy and blurred. At the same time, countless broken memories drowned out the physical pain like a tide.
It made him let out short bursts of low moans. Then, the Winter soldier, whose spirit was close to collapse, vaguely noticed the heavy steps of the terrifying figure. The terrifying figure who came nearby lowered his back slightly.
He looked at the Winter soldier with his eyes closed through the closed helmet.
Bucky Barnes, congratulations on surviving one of my attacks.
Welcome to join my team. Rorschach bent down and grabbed the Winter soldier, who was gradually falling into coma.
He walked past the broken corpses and rubble everywhere. Without hesitation, we stepped into the hot and dry desert. The thermostatic device from inside the hunter's armor has already been activated.
Even if you set foot in the lava volcanic zone where the temperature is even more terrifying, Rorschach can easily continue to persevere. 10 minutes later,
he led the Winter soldier to the back of a sand dune 3 kilometers away.
At this time, a Valkyrie-armed transport aircraft was being scorched by the sun.
The camouflage-sprayed metal shell reflects a faint light.
At the same time, Iron Man David was loading the scientific research equipment brought out from the underground laboratory into the Valkyrie's cabin. Wait until Rorschach carries the unconscious Winter soldier into the cabin.
Iron Man David gently put down a piece of scientific research equipment in his metal palm.
It walked up to Rorschach. He lowered his head and looked at the strange human being with bloody flesh.
My lord, have you found new manpower? That's right. I also hope to dig out some Hydra secrets from his memory. Rorschach gently put down the Winter soldier. Let the other person lie on the cold metal floor. He casually took off his closed metal helmet. The gray hair tied back was revealed.
Rorschach blinked his green wolf eyes, looked at Iron Man David and asked,
"Is the lab cleared?" "My lord, I was just about to report the situation to you."
Iron Man David shook his metal head. It raised its hand and pointed at the scientific research equipment that filled most of the cabin, and said, "Excluding various production equipment, the quantity of number 5 compound alone is close to 1 ton. In other words, if you need it, you can quickly raise a huge super-powered army." David, a group of superpowers with no will to fight can't even compare to the gangs in the hive. They are just a group of babies who have mastered laser guns. They may be destructive enough, but in the face of well-trained people, ordinary troops or even more terrifying aliens may not even be able to maintain their basic combat capabilities.
The expressionless Luo Sha narrowed his green wolf eyes and said calmly.
Moreover, Mr. Connors has not yet studied the true effectiveness of these compounds. Unless we obtain a large number of orphans and cultivate them from childhood, otherwise, the secondary harm caused by human experiments is not the result I hope to achieve. The most important thing is that courage and will are the real soul of a mortal army. Madame Gao's gang members still need to continue to hone, but you can help her select suitable elite candidates from among them and temporarily form an army. There are about 500 people in the gang. My only requirement for this team is that they are not afraid of death and are loyal enough. Since we will not start any large-scale war in a short period of time, if it is just urban combat, this team plus my leadership will be able to. It's enough to deal with fighting against official forces. Luo Sha lowered his head and thought for a moment, then continued to ask.
Remember to inform Raditus later and let him find a way to copy the laser weapon, even if it is not as powerful as the original version, but as long as it is more powerful than the individual weapons in modern society, it can be updated bit by bit in the future. Of course, if the situation is urgent, I will also find a way to use miracles to get some. Hear Rorschach's words. Iron Man David's eyes flashed with blue light. It shook its metal head slightly. He quickly wrote down the tasks issued by Rorschach. My lord, However, just when Iron Man David was about to compliment the other party, the flashing blue light in his eyes paused slightly. Then, it immediately said to Rorschach, My lord, another convoy is also coming towards the laboratory. According to the mark outside the vehicle and the call analysis on the communication channel, it is the manpower of S.H.I.E.L.D. And heard the report from Iron Man David. Rorschach, who squinted his eyes, twisted his neck from side to side, slowly revealing the fangs in his mouth. They are all a bunch of wild dogs that have tasted meat. Then, I plan to teach them a lesson they will never forget, which can also be regarded as a kind reminder to Nick Fury. Hear Rorschach's words. Iron Man David suddenly raised his metal palm and pointed at Valkyrie's cockpit and said, My lord, Valkyrie still has enough ammunition, but it's not as good as us. No need. Because I still have a little idea. Rorschach put on the metal helmet again and turned his eyes slightly. He stared at the unconscious Winter Soldier lying on the metal floor, and the corners of his mouth hidden inside the helmet curved. Long live Hydra. Phil Coulson, who was sitting in the passenger seat, subconsciously touched the mobile phone in his pocket, with a slight smile on his lips. Send private messages while working. A clear violation of SHIELD's work rules. But as an 8th level agent, he has some small privileges. Not to mention, he is the only commander of this temporary team that was temporarily pulled from a nearby base. Perhaps the smile on Coulson's lips was too obvious. A new agent responsible for driving blinked his eyes. He asked cautiously, Sir, you seem happy today. Hearing the question, Coulson immediately returned to his expressionless state. He said with a straight face, Greg, concentrate on driving. But, not long after, Coulson showed an irrepressible smile. He turned his head to the new agent with an uneasy expression and said in a gentle tone, It's my personal matter. My girlfriend has obtained the qualification to hold a cello concert. Ah, this is a good thing, then congratulations. The new agent nodded quickly. However, before he finished speaking, boom accompanied by a deafening explosion. The cars driving in front of the convoy exploded one after another. Even the car Coulson was riding in was suddenly overturned to the ground by a huge impact force. Boom boom boom. At the same time, a series of terrifying bombardments like thunder in the clear sky instantly resounded around. After a brief experience of severe dizziness, Coulson opened his eyes with difficulty. At this moment, he was firmly hung upside down on the seat by the seat belt. Coulson turned his head and looked at the driver beside him. But he found that the rookie agent who was not wearing a seat belt had lost his precious life. The other party's neck showed a strange twisted angle. Only in the pair of eyes that had not closed did he still have the lingering brilliance that had not disappeared. Greg.
Coulson suppressed the grief that surged in his heart and restored his agent's nature. He fumbled to unbuckle the seatbelt, and his back fell heavily on the roof of the car.
Then, he pulled out his pistol. He moved awkwardly through the broken window and crawled out of the car.
However, just when Coulson, who was lying on the ground, was about to get up and look for the enemy, the sandy ground in front of him was suddenly shrouded by a huge shadow. At the same time, Coulson heard a terrifying voice from the depths of nightmare.
Hydra, long live. It only took 5 minutes. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s convoy was completely annihilated. Unlike a Hydra that doesn't stay.
This time, Rorschach was able to hold back. He also needed the remaining wounded to send messages. In this way, both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra hiding among them will immediately suspect the established target. S.H.I.E.L.D. suspects Hydra, Hydra suspects Hydra. But Luo Taigong sat firmly on Diaoyutai. Choose the right time to take action again. Soon after, Rorschach, who was humming a tune, drove the hunter armor back to the Valkyrie.
Buzz buzz, accompanied by the huge roar of the Vector engine.
The armed transport plane slowly took off, driving into the blood-red sunset.
Rorschach took off his closed metal helmet. He checked on the unconscious Winter Soldier. It was discovered that the opponent's mechanical arm was seriously damaged. The injuries inside and outside the body are gradually stabilizing and recovering slowly. It seems that the super soldier's physical fitness is better than imagined. So, he sat back on his seat and began to close his eyes and meditate. After a few minutes, Rorschach opened his eyes. He remembered something he had almost forgotten. Rorschach first turned around and glanced at the cockpit. Then quickly opened the emulator. Hit the salvage page.
Open black lens bracket salvage countdown. 0 close black lens bracket open black lens bracket designated salvage. Powered armor STC, standard construction template, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket salvage harvest. Mark 4 extreme power armor STC fragments corrupted by chaos, close black lens bracket, please choose carefully.
Note: this is a standard construction template for manufacturing extreme power armor and neural connection systems.
Note: this STC once belonged to the Martian Forge General Kelbor Hal. After the rebellion ended, he wandered in the void of the universe.
Note: this template is suspected to have been corrupted by chaos. Tracing its origin, it may be bait thrown by the subspace evil god, Tzeentch.
Marking: no matter who it is, take it. This is your destiny, Destiny Weaver. Luo Sha couldn't help but narrowed his green wolf eyes. I scanned the labels of salvaged items repeatedly.
Then, without hesitation, he dragged the salvaged items into the garbage classification.
Originally, Rorschach did not expect to get anything good from this designated salvage.
What's more, this STC has been corrupted by chaos. Unless Rorschach really went crazy. Otherwise, even the thought of pity will not arise in my heart.
Rorschach turned off the simulator and twitched his nose slightly.
He muttered to himself, the Tzeentch in the simulator is just like a toad with its teeth and claws. It can't bite people, but it can bite people.
The huge glove was placed flat on his knees, and Rorschach closed his eyes again to rest.
It can be said that he got the simulator reward from the initial stage. Be very careful in choosing. For everything to do with chaos, no matter what the reward. As long as any point is involved, I would rather waste resources than obtain them.
My lord, we are about to enter a thunderstorm cloud, and Valkyrie may experience considerable turbulence. Soon after, the mechanical voice from Iron Man David interrupted Rorschach's divergent thoughts. Got it, David. Rorschach quickly stood up. He lifted the Winter Soldier lying on the metal floor. He placed the other person flat on the seat and fixed it.
Later, Rorschach checked the placement of scientific research equipment.
And tested the firmness of the strap again. Prevent unnecessary losses caused by mutual collision. However, just when Rorschach was about to return to his seat, Iron Man David's mechanical voice came again. My lord, Valkyrie's detection device has detected a very huge energy brewing in the nearby thunderstorm clouds. We seem to have entered a thunderstorm area. Rorschach stepped forward and walked into the cockpit. He stared at the dark, thick clouds outside the cockpit, frowning slightly.
Why does the weather change so fast? What is the current flight location and altitude? We haven't left New Mexico yet, flying at an altitude of 1,500 meters. Iron Man David said without looking back. David, change your flight route immediately, fly out of this thunderstorm first, be careful.
Rorschach narrowed his eyes. He stared at the occasional flash of blue lightning in the thick clouds. It seemed like he remembered something. Rumble. At this moment, there was a burst of dazzling lightning.
Deafening thunder suddenly resounded throughout the thick clouds.
The huge sound even completely suppressed the roar of the vector engine. Wow! Raindrops like pouring rain continued to hit the transparent window of Valkyrie, blocking the view of the outside world. My lord, we are under attack.
The next moment, Iron Man David, who was interrupted by the sudden change, issued a warning. The blue light in its eye sockets kept flashing, and a metal palm suddenly pushed and pulled the control lever.
The flying Valkyrie performed emergency evasion with great flexibility.
Buzz. At the same time, a scorching orange-red light instantly brushed across the wing of the transport plane, burning off part of the fragile metal surface. In the cockpit, Rorschach stood expressionlessly with his back straight, trying his best to maintain the balance of his body. He stared out the window with blurred vision and slowly bared his fangs.
A few seconds ago, he seemed to see a vague human figure, just flying across the dark sky in front of him.
"4. Rorschach took a deep breath and opened his eyes wide. He shouted to Iron Man David. David, don't worry about anything else, speed up and rush out.
Understood, my lord. Iron Man David skillfully controlled Valkyrie.
The huge wing tilted slightly. It quickly climbed to the sky above the thunderstorm clouds.
Buzz. But at this moment, a thicker scorching light once again crossed the gloomy and dark sky.
The target was changed to Valkyrie, who was trying to evacuate the battlefield.
Iron Man David pulled the joystick again. The roaring Valkyrie instantly made an evasive maneuver that was close to the limit.
Bang! Even though Iron Man David's operation was perfect. But the scorching light still brushed against one of Valkyrie's wings, causing some structural damage. This caused a significant change in Valkyrie's flight posture, and the turbulence became increasingly severe. At the same time, the alarm in the cockpit kept ringing. It kept stimulating Rorschach's increasingly tense fighting nerves. The next moment, Rorschach suddenly took a deep breath.
He twisted his neck expressionlessly. He said to Iron Man David in a decisive tone. David, turn around. Fly low. Got it, my lord.
The blue light in Iron Man David's eyes flickered slightly. Finally, he responded. The climbing Valkyrie quickly changed the direction of flight and swooped downwards. Rorschach, with a grim look on his face, turned back to the cabin. He put on the metal helmet again. At the same time, he reloaded the huge gloves of the Hunter Lord armor with explosive bullets. Finally, Rorschach twisted his neck. His sight through the helmet fell on a terrifying weapon fixed between the cabin walls. It was the Gauss blaster from the Necrons. Click. Rorschach raised the Gauss blaster without hesitation. He ordered the Iron Man David without turning his head. David, open the hatch.